Frankly, I never thought it would happen. I just assumed that 6 vs 6 hero swapping, objective-based gameplay was the only Overwatch we would ever know. But Blizzard has proved that they're not afraid to shake things up and try something drastically different with their game. And that is what 3 vs 3 elimination is, and that's what I want to talk about with you guys here today. So when this was first announced at BlizzCon, I immediately said how big of a deal I thought it was. Yeah, Sombra looked cool and new maps are neat, but aside from the brawls, this was the first truly different way to experience the game. Assault, Control, and Escort, while having different objectives and favoring different team comps, they all still play more or less the same. Teams poke to build up their ultimates, they try to get a pick, and then engage with an advantage. Whoever wins that fight takes or defends the objective, rinse and repeat. That is Overwatch. But with the addition of 3 vs 3 elimination, we're presented with a drastically different way to play, and in my opinion, quite possibly a better option for competitive and professional play. Yes, all of the heroes have the same skills, strengths, and weaknesses, but you approach the game differently. Number one, we don't have any respawns, which makes every single life that much more valuable. You're a lot less likely to dive into the enemy team trying to get that triple kill, knowing that if you die, you're done and your team's at a disadvantage. Secondly, there's no hero swapping mid-round, which forces you to make your team composition work against the enemy. It's not a situation of, oh, they have a Genji, we better switch to Winston to counter. You can't switch. If they have a Genji, you have to deal with it with what you have. And then finally, there's fewer, if any, ultimates in a round. This sort of focuses the gameplay on aiming and proper skill use instead of just building up to hit your I win button. All of this results in slower paced, higher stakes gameplay, where every moment, every shot, and every skill use really counts. If you screw up in a regular match, you play too aggressively, you get caught out of position, you miss your shots, you die, which does suck for your team, but it doesn't mean the match is over. You'll be back in the fight after a few seconds and you'll get another go at it. Dying in a 3 vs 3 elimination puts your team at a huge disadvantage, and barring they completely outplay the rest of the enemy team, they'll probably lose the round and you're down a point. The higher stakes make every round feel more skill-based and tense than traditional Overwatch. This leads to some heart-pounding, adrenaline-pumping action. These games are intense, which then leads us to discussion of the pro scene. By far the most common complaint about Overwatch as an esport is its watchability. This boils down to the core problems of there being too much going on at any given time, with shots, skills, and ultimates from 12 different players all going off simultaneously. It can be hard to follow, but the pacing and the reduced player numbers of 3 vs 3 elimination practically solve all of these problems in the snap of a finger. And as I've mentioned, it's higher stakes and intense gameplay, which can be loads of fun to watch. This isn't just me coming up with some crazy ideas and begging Blizzard to do something that they're not interested in. From the onset, they've considered making 3 vs 3 elimination a competitive mode. When it was revealed at BlizzCon, they said that depending on how the community received it, they may be giving it its own competitive ranked ladder. In fact, just yesterday, game director Jeff Kaplan reiterated that statement, saying, "We're certainly open-minded about adding a more competitive structure to 3 vs 3, or 1 vs 1 for that matter. We did not want to start there though, because we believe the new modes and map will require some iteration before they are ready for a competitive structure. We're keeping a very close eye on how these modes evolve, and we will make changes to keep them healthy and to continue to grow them." So this is something that they've obviously put some serious thought into. But the real question is not could they do this, but should they? We're not going to neglect the fact that there's some big problems with making competitive 3 vs 3, or even just shifting the game's focus to this mode, this elimination style. First of all, the game is not balanced around 3 vs 3. It was built from the onset with 6 vs 6 team objective gameplay in mind. So they would have to reconsider hero balancing, and what would this mean for a 6 vs 6 mode if they're making adjustments for how heroes perform in 3 vs 3? Having these two different competitive options could really mess up the balancing of the game. And along those same lines, the lack of ultimates also favor some heroes. In 3 vs 3, I would say in 90% of the rounds, ultimates are not used. They're over before that happens. And some heroes without their ultimates perform better because their base weapons and their base kits are really strong, whereas other heroes really focus and are centered around how good their ultimate is. Already, I've started to see very common picks, with Roadhog, Mei, Ana, Zenyatta, and Soldier probably being the 5 heroes that I see played most often. And then finally, there's the issue of fragmenting the player base. As it stands, people who want to play Overwatch, quote, seriously, will just be playing the 6 vs 6 competitive, and then people who want to take a break or play it more casually can jump into arcade mode. But if we add a second serious mode, another competitive mode, that might just split the player base in two. Or maybe everyone really loves 3 vs 3 and they're not playing much 6 vs 6 anymore. But, you know, if that's what the player base enjoys, is that a bad thing? There are certainly some issues and big questions that need to be answered, but ultimately, I stick by my initial assessment in saying that 3 vs 3 elimination is one of the greatest additions to Overwatch and could drastically change the future direction of the game. And I'm happy to see that Blizzard isn't afraid to try these things, because as I stated at the top of this video, I was just assuming that 6 vs 6 objective-based gameplay with hero swapping was the only Overwatch we would ever know. There would be new heroes, there would be new maps, maybe there'd be new objective-based game modes, but the fact that they've gone out on the limb and done something that's so drastically different as this truly is, it makes me happy, because I happen to really enjoy it. Alright everybody, that does it for me here today. As always, please let me know what you think in the comment section below about this video, about what we discussed. Love to know your thoughts. Hope you have a good afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.